Hi everyone, this is John with Third Iron. I'm here today to talk about enhancing document delivery with LibKey and Article Galaxy Scholar. This is a great new integration feature that we've got with LibKey, and this video is meant as a shortened, condensed way to kind of explain all the different features of this, as well as what the setup looks like, and get into the major benefits of why we did this to begin with. So without further ado, just a quick reminder about the overview of LibKey, what LibKey is all about, which is that we use a combination of article level intelligence and an expert AI system for intelligent source selection to create the fastest, most reliable, and informed linking possible. That's at the heart of what we do with the LibKey product, and you can see very quickly how AGS enhances that. So LibKey uses a linking logic that looks something like this. We take the article record, the point of discovery, and we feed it through our article intelligence data. Things we know uniquely about that article, like the metadata about it, its open access availability, and so on, and then merge that with things that we uniquely know about the library's holdings, whether that be the entitlements or how the library gets access to that content, the authentication, different available formats that we might have of that content, whether there's PDF or article links, as well as open access, different levels of availability. For example, version of record versus a accepted manuscript, where you might get things from aggregators, and also editorial status. Has something been retracted? Is there an expression of concern about that article? We then feed that through our AI expert source selection. So we put it in this relative order, looking at the open access version of record, subscribed journals from publishers, aggregators, non-version of record open access, and then finally ILL or document delivery to get the user to the full text. This whole process takes literally a tenth of a second, so everything is near instant for the user, being able to get this sort of linking technology right inside their various systems. We do this from all different points of discovery. So that could be Primo, EBSCO, Summon, OCLC, TDNet, all the different discovery services out there. Databases like Web of Science or EBSCO host, open web searching. So using our LibKey Nomad browser extension within PubMed, Wikipedia, on ResearchGate, thousands of different publisher sites and so on to produce this very sort of consistent way of linking from the point of discovery through to full text. Now, when we talk about document delivery and ILL services, we get into thinking about how unmediated document delivery is really the new patron-driven acquisition that we saw in ebooks a number of years ago. And this makes libraries kind of rethink about how they handle acquisitions and where do they think their philosophy of acquisitions is on this kind of spectrum of just in case versus just in time. Obviously, if you're more of a just-in-case library, you're going to have a lot more direct subscriptions for your journals, rely on aggregators a lot less, and document delivery and ILL even less so. But if you're a just-in-time library, you're just the opposite of that, where you may have very little direct from a publisher, maybe less of an aggregator, but rely heavily on doc delivery or ILL services to get things just in time for your users. With AGS, we're utilizing the knowledge of unmediated delivery. What items a library has selected for this unmediated delivery technology, either by the publishers they've selected or individual titles, to then make that available within the LibKey ecosystem. Now, all this leads into what we see as evolving collection strategies, where libraries may, in the past, have relied very heavily on subscriptions and be in that just-in-case mode. And this could be direct subscriptions from publishers, could be aggregation, open access is figured into this as well. And then there's a very low reliance on document delivery to provide access for their users. A just-in-time model, though, can really shrink that sub-budget, and sometimes that's not a choice. It's just what is necessary in your budgetary climate. And so, having less money being spent on subscriptions can necessitate an increase in the amount spent on document delivery. But you can see that overall, you're still saving money across your entire budget. And so, when we talk about moving subscriptions to document delivery as the fulfillment method, It doesn't mean that you would save all of that money. You would be transferring, of course, some of it to a different mode of delivery. But overall, you can save quite a bit if this is a strategy that you're going to engage in. There are some traditional problems with those strategies that are actually no longer true. So here's a couple of items to consider that you may have previously been thinking, well, we can't do that because of these reasons. But because of the technology that Article Galaxy Scholar from Research Solutions has worked out, as well as the technology that we're combining that with LibKey, these previous problems are no longer true. So first, ILL document delivery time will impede research and lead to poor outcomes for patrons. Libraries are often very concerned about transferring from that subscription to the just-in-time kind of bucket, thinking like, well, this is going to impede research progress because they can't get things immediately. It could take hours or days or sometimes a week to get that material. But the majority of the articles actually from Article Galaxy Scholar can be fulfilled within seconds. So things are nearly instant, very, very close to what it would be if you were subscribing to that material. The second thing is document delivery costs can easily add up to the cost of a subscription, making it impractical. This was much more commonly the case 20 years ago, given the price of journals. Whereas nowadays, the price of some journals can be tens of thousands of dollars. So moving those sorts of materials to document delivery, it would take actually a lot of individual article purchases to equal the amount that is requested for the subscription. Third, managing document delivery costs to prevent overruns is too difficult in an unmediated setting. There's often a concern that if you move things over to an unmediated model where there's not an ILL librarian in the mix who's approving those requests, that you could wake up one day and all your money is spent. That is not the case with Article Galaxy Scholar because there's lots of different levers and switches in their system where you can have a tight control over the amount of money that is spent by limiting how many purchases can go through, what journals are available, the date ranges on those journals. Lots of things can stand in the way of that. And on top of that, when it's combined with LibKey, as you'll see in a second, the nice part too is that each article request has to feed through the entire LibKey algorithm, looking for open access versions, checking your subscriptions, your aggregation holdings, before it would show up in Article Galaxy Scholar fulfillment. And then fourth, workflow confusion from users will result in unnecessary purchases or inconsistent workflow. So directing everything to Article Galaxy Scholar or everything, or potentially having links in places that people aren't anticipating it means that there would have to be a big onboarding process, perhaps, letting people know that this service is available. But when it's integrated with LibKey, it's quite organic in the way that it's presented to users. So that limitation is also minimized here. So traditionally, our waterfall has had things without Article Galaxy Scholar on the left. You can see there. Again, that's that waterfall we talked about earlier. Open access version of record, subscribed journal publisher, subscribed aggregator, open access manuscripts, and then we have the fallback path. But with Article Galaxy Scholar, you can see there's a new box that's added, which is that gray one there, where you have unmediated document delivery. So if an article comes up that a user is interested in, it's not open access version of record, it's not in your subscription holdings, it's not in your aggregation, but it does fall within the parameters of what you've configured in Article Galaxy Scholar. Say this particular journal from 2020 to present, the articles from 2022. Then we would present a request PDF link to the user, and they would make a direct link over to AGS to have that fulfilled. The current access paths to get to AGS can be hidden in the user workflow, which can require that additional knowledge from users and additional clicks. Having to go into, for example, a Primo system and then click through into Alma for the resolver, then to find the right link to do a document delivery request, and so on. It can also lead to potentially unexpected results, meaning that access to the content becomes inherently more restricted through obscurity. And what we mean by that is that when you click through there and you request that article through AGS, at that moment, the user doesn't know what the outcome is going to be. Is it going to be something that is unmediated and fulfilled immediately, or is it going to be rerouted to ILL, which is something that AGS nicely takes care of? The user doesn't know, but with the LibKey integration, the user will know because we'll be able to signpost the experience to them in real time at the moment of discovery. So it's a much clearer path for the user, which also just reinforces confidence in library systems because when they click something, they are told what's going to happen, and that is what happens. Here's how it looks in in context here with LibKey Discovery. We got Primo and Summon here. I have this set so that we're seeing items beyond our collection, things that we don't have access to. You can see now there's a request PDF link being put in there with Primo that links right over to AGS where you can see request PDF. You can see that's where we got that terminology from because that's the name of the button inside of AGS. And then they're able to request that paper. Same thing happens in third-party systems like Scite, which is also a research solutions product, but things like Litmaps and dozens of other aggregators and discovery systems that we work with are able to have the same technology because it flows through the entire LibKey algorithm. LibKey Link is our link resolver an enhancement tool. So this sits where your link resolver usually sits. And you can see I've got PDF at University there as sort of a stand-in there in Scopus. And that comes to our format chooser, which then has this new language, document delivery options, request PDF again. That again goes to AGS and you get your PDF. Inside of PubMed, we're using things like LibKey Nomad, our browser extension, and you can see we signpost the availability of that first article, which ordinarily might say access options because it's not available. But this one says request PDF, great, we're able to get it, and we get right to the full text. And then here is at LibKey.io, which is our destination platform where you can look up an article by its DOI or PMID. And again, to that format chooser, request PDF, over to AGS, and you get the article. Now, that's a very straightforward kind of approach to it when you've got a single path for fulfillment, meaning that all users get access to all of the AGS resources that you've enabled. But some libraries do what we call like the split path. And in this split path configuration, you're going to have maybe faculty having access to AGS unmediated fulfillment, whereas students might instead be routed to ILL services. So we create this other sort of arrangement where it's going to still signpost request PDF and all those contexts we just talked about, but it's always going to go to the LibKey format chooser so that a user can self-affiliate with what their status is. So here's how that looks in practice. Here we are back into the discovery system. They see request PDF, comes to the format chooser, and you can see in my example, it says request PDF faculty ILL request for students. That text is fully customizable on a per library basis. So if you're doing this where you have, for example, AGS for faculty and graduate students, you could change that language to be appropriate for you. And then you can see the ILL request will then go to the ILL system directly, and the AGS enabled items will go right to AGS. So it keeps the paths very clean. And I should note that a student cannot defeat this, essentially. So if a student goes in there and says, oh, I'm faculty, AGS, through the SSO integration with AGS, AGS knows the status of the user who's making the request. So they will automatically route that back to ILL if it actually is a student who's making the request. You can see that the rest of these examples look exactly the same as the first one for the split path. So here we are in Scite and Litmaps, same thing. We go to the format chooser and it gets split out. LibKey Link, my Scopus example, gets split out. And in Nomad, split out again. And finally with LibKey.io, and you can see it gets split out. So finally, how is this configured? Well, setup is done between Third Iron and Research Solutions with consent of the library, but there's no configuration changes needed by the library. The library can opt to change the textual labeling from the default request PDF to whatever is desired. So if you have some local naming for this service, you can call it that. As mentioned before, we called it request PDF because that's the same action button that's inside of Article Galaxy Scholar. Titles and publishers and their corresponding journals that are marked for unmediated delivery are utilized, whereas titles marked for ILL will be ignored. So you can add, there's more sophistication in AGS than this feature will reveal. For example, you can set things up in AGS so that certain titles you want to follow the Cantu rule of five if you're in the United States, and you want ILL to review those and so on. If that's the case for those titles, this integration will simply ignore those. It's looking just at ones that you've set up for unmediated delivery, but you don't need to configure anything differently. We've kind of automated all that behind the scenes. This synchronization is done between AGS and Third Iron once a day. So you make all your changes in AGS and we take care of the rest. Everything is automated. AGS is always the arbiter of truth. So even if there's a small sync delay, right, you make some changes at night and we pick it up at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. the next day, there could be some hours there where you have turned off some titles or turned on some titles and we don't know about it yet, which is totally fine because again, AGS is the arbiter of truth. So worst case scenario, there might be a request PDF link that appears in various systems. If the user clicks those and it's those titles you just turned off, AGS already knows that. So it will reroute those to ILL automatically. So know that you are always in control in real time through AGS of your purchases. There we go. There's the summary. This video is being put on a page with a lot more textual information, but we thought that a video presentation would also be helpful in understanding this powerful new feature. Thank you for watching.